All right, everybody, Jace from the Comic Store is coming to you live from the floor of San Diego Comic-Con once again. I have a creator that's coming on for the first time. Super excited. Uber talented Chris Condon. Chris, thanks for chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me on, Jace. Appreciate it.
I specifically want to touch base on the goddamn Tradgedy, which is your one-shot book from Oni. There's a lot of great themes in there. But let's start off with the elevator pitch, let everybody kind of know what it's about, and then we'll dive into a little bit of the details.
Yeah, so the elevator pitch is really simple. It's the Donner Party meets The Shining. That was basically that was the idea. It's funny because the title came first, the goddamn Tradgedy, and then what does that mean? What could that possibly be? And I had just done the Enfield Game Massacre in Image Comics, and the Western that we were telling worked for people, and so I wanted to work in that genre again. And I love working with Oni Press, so I approached them with this idea of doing a sort of Western about a family traveling west. They were trying to get to California, and the father is in a rush to try to get there, and so he listens to people that he probably shouldn't, and they take a trail that nobody else will, and bad things happen because of that.
And that's what's so fast. So, obviously you love that kind of period, that genre. It speaks to you a little more freeing to not have it makes things a little more perilous.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But the other thing that fascinates me about this, like, you can't depend on your family, who, especially a father, he should be the one keeping safe. So I think there's a relatability there, but that's also where I think the terror comes in. Like, because again, those are the people you're supposed to depend on to have your back.
I also don't think it's just the father. I think it's the mother as well. She's an enabler in a lot of ways. It's really the daughter that kind of sees what's happening and wants to be a little freer, be like the other kids. There's a moment in the beginning of the story where all the other kids are out playing in the river, in the Mississippi River, and she's the only one who has to help her mother cleaning clothes. And she says, "Can I go in the river, Mom?" And her mom says, "No. We're not here to play. We're here to work. We're doing this for your father. We're doing this for this family." And it's that's absolutely a great fear. How many people have trauma from how they were raised?
Right.
This is something that is a very innate fear. It's a very real fear, and it's something that is so human that why not explore it? Why not talk about that? It's in a one shot, you're confined with the amount of space that you have to tell that story, but I still think that we're able to touch on that, and I think people really responded well to that.
Yeah, there's a relatability there, and you seem to be a storyteller that is interested in starting those conversations. It is just a one-shot, so everybody, you can pick it up and read it or what have you, but the value is in the relatability and how much I'm still thinking about it the next day or the next week, or, that sort of thing. It's about building the connection.
Yeah, well, I love a short story. I love a one-shot. I love a one-and-done story with an ending. For me, the power of a one-shot, you have to build a one-shot in a particular kind of way because you do want it to stay with people. You don't want it to float away from their brain. You want it to stick with them. You want them to remember it. You want it to be worth the price of admission.
Right.
Because it is hard to get people to come in and say, I'm going to invest in this thing that is X amount of dollars and it's one story.
Right.
People want to be a part of something that's going to continue going. People love the serialized nature of comics. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult to get people to come in and say, I'm going to get this one shot. But I came from loving a good one shot, loving I loved like Wednesday comics.
Right. DC, yeah.
Those are one shot comics. I really love like the work of Mike Mignola. He would do even like 3-4 page short stories, the pancake stories, like Homeboy is one of them. And I love those sorts of stories, and those stay with me. And I think almost the fact that they are in and out stories helps them stay with you, because you don't get lost in the sauce of what this huge, sprawling, epic story is. And I was just rereading a story, a series, and I had read it before, and this was a reread, and I had no memory of any of the events that had happened. I kind of remembered this character and this character were in it, but Most of it just flew out of my brain, and it kind of amazed me that had happened, because I remembered it being very good. But I do think that because it's a one-shot, because you have that, it's almost like this flash explosion, this thing, it stays with you.
Yeah, imprinted.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, the other thing, and we'll finish with this, that I find, you mentioned kind of the sprawling or the serialized, you have your Ultimate Wolverine you're doing. Obviously that, is continues on as opposed to one shot. But as a writer, is it good to flex those different muscles to do, hey, let me do a one shot, as opposed to, because like you said, you build it differently, kind of keep those different type of storytelling muscles limber?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ultimate Wolverine is kind of built in a way where it almost is one shots every month because of the real-time nature of it.
Right, that's true.
So there isn't, it's not, the second issue doesn't pick up at the end of the first issue.
Right.
The beginning of the third doesn't. So there's a little bit of a one-shot nature to it, but the story does continue. But yeah, I do think it's very important to stretch those muscles. I love doing short stories. I mean, I've done 8 EC stories across the line for Oni Press. I've done one-shots, short stories. I love mini-series, some News from the Fallout, Miami series. That's a 6-issue mini-series. That Texas Blood is a continuing series. We've done 26 issues of that if you're including the Echo Game Massacre. But each one of these things are built in a different way. I don't think that any of these stories are really acting in the same way, and I love getting to try different things, to try new things, whether it's adapting a book like I did with Night People for Oni Press, or whether it's doing a one-shot like the goddamn Tradgedy. Each one of these is exercising a different muscle and letting me try new things, and some of the things will be more successful than others, but at the same time they all have their benefits, both for me as a storyteller and I think also for readers who enjoy my work,
right?
Because I think that they get to see a different side of me, whether one of these stories might be a dark, bleak story, one of them might be a fun story, one of them might be something that really tugs at the heartstrings. So I think it's good for the medium, at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, well, you mentioned News from the Fallout. That's another series just kicking off. So everybody, you can look that. You can, like Chris said, 6-issue mini. First issue's out, easy to get caught up, because that's another one that really has you. Especially if you're a kid that grew up in the 80s, it is kind of that end of the Cold War.
Yeah.
Worried about nuclear bombs falling from the sky. Yeah, it definitely speaks to me on that level. So anyway, Chris, great chatting with you. And everybody, we'll have Chris on for a longer conversation, dive into some of these books and stories a little deeper at a later time. But thanks for taking the time.
Of course, thank you very much.